planning, developing, wholesaling, investing, financing, and management. If it's real estate, we're talking about it. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, an award-winning 6- and 7-figure real estate agent with over 2 decades of experience. Understanding real estate is a dream for many, that we, real estate professionals, have the ability to bring that dream to reality while building better communities and being the change we want to see. Welcome back to the show. I'm super excited that you are choosing to share your time with us today. If this is the first time visiting us here and you stumbled across 500 Doors, why 500 Doors? Because behind every door is an opportunity, opportunities of legacy and changing community and creating space that can be inclusive and engaging. So I, as a professional in real estate, have chosen to find other people and give us their secret sauce. Now, long time ago, so we're going way back in the Wayback Machine, was a waitress in Vegas. And I was taught a phrase very early on when I was working at the Mirage, was a CYA. And, I'm not going to say exactly what that stood for, but it was this cover your, and now we can apply that actually to today's show of cover your assets. So, today's guest, Scott Royal Smith, is a real estate investor and asset protection attorney. This is going to be great information, folks. Scott became an entrepreneur while still in law school, purchasing and running an auto mechanics shop to pay for his way through school. After graduating, Scott began his law career as a high stakes corporate litigator. He spent the last 10 years of his career analyzing real estate investments and asset protection. Today, Scott is the founder and CEO of Royal Legal Solutions, a firm he built to offer tax, business, and legal strategies to clients all over the US and Canada. He continues to educate the public on asset protection strategies to help circumvent debilitating lawsuits for his clients. So let's bring him into studio, because we all know that the best lawyer is the one that doesn't have to pull you out of a fire, but can prevent the fire, right? So, Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Kim.
Excellent. So, whereabouts are you? First, give us a little bit of who is Scott and where are you located?
Sure. Well, I spend time between Austin, where we're headquarters, and southern Utah, outside of some properties I have here outside of Zion National Park. And most of my time is free time is actually spent trying to find new and fun, exciting things I can do in nature, from mountain biking to canyoneering to rappelling. Trying to have as much fun as I can and getting outside as much as I can, and enjoying life.
Well, you can tell that you're a nature lover with the plants and everything behind you, and you seem like you seem very like relaxed and you know uh, amiable as to what most of us perceive as lawyers, right? You seem like you have this really kind of energy that welcomes people in. Um, yeah, you do. And a great smile and the dimples. You're definitely somebody's favorite out there. I'm absolutely sure.
You're gonna
Yeah.
make me blush, Kim. It's so sweet of you to say.
Well, I want to dive into what you do, because I know that the CYA principle is essential when we're dealing with real estate. And yet there's so many things on the move. There's so many moving parts that people can get caught short on a regular. So walk me through a little bit of what you do, and then I'm going to just jump in and start asking you some questions. How's that sound?
Sure. I'd like to share with you first maybe a little bit about the why.
Okay,
About why
perfect.
is this important? And a couple of things happened in my life. One was that I had a friend who lost over $3 million from a single lawsuit. He's very well insured and took most of his real estate. And that's when I got to a lesson as a wake-up call to say it's very important to think deeply about not just what we make in life, but what is it that we're able to keep. And then of the things that we're able to keep, how are they motivated to serve us and to being able to give us whatever is the experience that we're looking for? And these became very deep questions for me to know, like, what is it that I'm really after? And so after starting my own real estate investing journey while I was in law school, buying a transmission and auto repair shop for $10,000 in back taxes, flipping that business in the building to be able to graduate from law school without debt, continuing to invest in real estate while I was being a litigation attorney, suing insurance companies, and ultimately leaving law to be able to practice real estate, I got to confront that question, which was the lie that I was told. The lie that I was told is the same lie that everybody seems to be saying, which is once that I have the money, then all of a sudden everything else will simply be easy and I'll finally have the life experience I'm looking for. What I found was having the money, the passive income, was actually just the first step. That was the money that I made. Then it was, how do I keep it? This is where asset protection came into place to say, how do I make sure I protect it from lawsuits? Make sure that people can't take it from me. How do I save on taxes to make sure the government isn't going to take it from me? Then how do I use investing to make sure that the market and market conditions can't take it from me? Because the kind of freedom that I wanted to build for myself, the kind of freedom we build for clients that come in and work with us at Royal Legal Solutions, are interested in that kind of freedom, that durable financial freedom. And then how do we accelerate the path to that freedom? How do we get our time back by using an in-house team? So that way we don't have to quarterback all of these professionals on our own. So all of these things that I built in my company, to be honest, I actually built for me. It's because this is the life that I wanted. And then by extension, having built this for myself, for those people that want this kind of life, that want this kind of peace of mind, that want this kind of time freedom, that they're able to come in and join me. So I hope that answered your question.
No, that's awesome. When you're stepping in, so first of all, how many people show up and ask for help that haven't had an issue in past? What percentage of your clientele have come to you through a pain point because they've had an issue or they're in a preventative stage when we're looking at this?
Everybody comes in with a pain point. We
Yeah,
don't do things in life without having a pain point.
yeah.
The question actually comes is, what kind of pain point? We think that it's not painful to just simply have something rattling around in our heads. I think it is. I think those things that come up for us over and over again, that says I should be doing something to protect myself. I should be doing something to make sure my family's okay. I should be doing something to save money on taxes. Those are pain points. Look at what they do. They take us out of being able to live in the present of whatever is around us that we should be and could be experiencing in life. And instead, we get pulled into a thought, to an illusion of pain and insecurity and fear. And when we don't act on it, what happens? Those things keep rattling around. So every person that I've ever talked to or have introduced into our vault with all of the online materials, at whatever place they come, I have a place for them. Some people are ready to go have us build everything for them. Some say, I'm just curious about what is the highest level that I could be thinking about. Maybe I need to do one small thing now. So I have free resources for them of ebooks and video trainings to say, great, come get educated. You might not be able to do something for a while. It might not make sense, but I have a place for you to get educated, a place for you to get oversight and support about what should you be learning next. I have a group that meets every single week of other investors that are already walking the journey with me and have been, some people for many years. And so it comes to a place that says, what I'm really trying to create and work hard to create is a place that everybody from the very beginning to the very seasoned have a place that they can come to and say, great, I'm now on a journey that has a predictable result. And at the end of that result is actual freedom, actual safety, actual peace of mind to know that I'm doing everything right and I've done everything there is to do.
And predictability is something that is highly valued, but it's not thought about. It's not something we think about, but yet when it happens, it's incredibly valued, right? Whether it's a negative or a positive, we know what's coming down the pipe next. And that kind of leads us to a point where we can focus our energies elsewhere, right?
It
As
might be
we,
why we're so attached to real estate. We like the predictability, right? We
yep.
like the passive income. We like the stability of the asset. So for those of us that are already drawn to this type of asset, we aren't in Vegas putting everything on black. We're actually looking for safety and predictability. And so I think that becomes a place to say, well, how do I become more safe and more predictable with what I'm going to choose to do in life? All these things that we do internally as a law firm and a tax firm, an insurance firm, an investing firm, at Royal Legal Solutions, are just an extension of the one principle, which is let's just study the way in which the people that already have what we want, how they got there. And what are the ways in which we can find that says, oh, here seems to be the predictable path to get to the place that we want to go to. If we study them and just repeat what they do and have systems and processes to do it predictably and professionals to be able to navigate the nuances of each situation, that's really all that's needed.
What do you think is the greatest myth out there when people start either on a personal real estate journey or a real estate development and investment journey? What do you think the greatest myth, the one thing that you see repeatedly that causes pain for people on their journey?
It's almost always not following the path. The path is already there. It's already very clear if you're working with people that have walked the path themselves and helped other people already walk the path. What you're saying oftentimes, and the myth is, I'm going to figure out a better way on my own. You might. You might. But why? Why risk it with something that's this important? Just follow the path. The path is easy. You just take one step after another. You just follow exactly what people are telling you to do. Maybe if you decide you want to, first master how to walk the path that's already laid out. Then, after you've mastered that, then go be creative. That's the time for creativity. Creativity is not at the beginning of the journey. Creativity is at the end of the journey when you're trying to tune in that last 1%, because there is actually no improvements to be made on the other 99%.
Shakespeare's quoted in saying that there's only 7 original storylines.
Yeah.
And when we look at this, there's stories, rules, paths to success. Each person has a personal message within that. So you take a look, believe it or not, movies like, let me just grab a couple. You got the, from rags to riches, right? So we see what is it? The one that Will Smith did where he went to Wall Street. And we see all these movies, and believe it or not, they're exactly the same storyline, but with a different lens. And I think a lot of people, they confuse their lens with throwing out the entire story, and they feel that they can rewrite a new story, right? Rags to riches is rags to riches. That is the story. It's just a different lens. And I see people all the time that goes, well, that's what they did, but I'm going to do it differently. The reality is there's stories and rules, and people have to that's you just fall within them, whether or not you want to be there, you fall within it. So yeah, don't get creative from the start. Learn the systems. Um, when we're looking at the systems, what is obviously going to royallegalsolutions.com is a great first step. Um, where do you typically encounter people within their journey? Is it after they've purchased, one, two, three, four properties, or after, they've gone through an ugly divorce or they've had, where do you typically encounter people within their journey of, of real estate?
Yeah. So the we're so good at what we do with tax that anybody that's making above $150,000 a year, we can save them so much money in taxes that it pays for everything else that we do. So there's this broad scope of who it is that we can help that says, good, if you're making
Yes.
money, we know how to help you get it protected, optimize for taxes, get your estate planning in place. And from this, you're going to see that the tax savings will actually pay for all the professional services. I don't know of anybody else that's making the same type of promise inside of our industry of how effective that they can be for anybody that comes in. For real estate investors, sometimes you find people at the very beginning. Most of the time, what you find is they own a few single family homes, somewhere between 1 and 10. And they say, I realize now that there's some things I want to do to hold my assets anonymously, make sure that they're protected using the appropriate LLCs or trust structures, depending upon what state they live in, depending upon the asset type, whatever the case may be. And then they want to walk through the process at that point because they've already gotten a little farther down and they realize that this question of, oh, yeah, I need to do something about being protected is in their mind. And then that's when they reach out. And that's why I tell people it's easy to know if you should reach out because your mind is actually already telling you that there's something in here that you need to be doing to be able to be in alignment with what you know is true for you. So the broad scope of who it is that we can help has everything to do with money. And then in real estate, it's typically people that have typically between like 1 to 10 properties. And then we help them fix everything. So it's um, not just one piece, it's the full system. What are you doing right now to make money? How do you protect that using the LLC structures? Can you using corporate structure to save on tax? What kind of business deductions can you be taking? What kind of tax shelters, like private foundations or other tax shelters, can you be using? What ways are you using accelerated or bonus depreciation on either syndication investments or other investments that you might buy to further lower your taxes? How are we going to structure all of this so that way everything passes to your family if anything happens to you, so that way that they're not left in a lurch? Thinking everything holistically, providing unlimited support by email within 24 hours, having a couple of annual touch points with the attorney team allows us to be able to just build all of the foundations from start to finish, be able to coach, here's exactly what you need to do to be able to go reach your goals, provide you appropriate levels of insight and quick responses to handle issues as they come up during the year.
And in taxes, so a lot of people when we're right now going through what we call kind of like accidental landlords, and these are people who have inherited a property from parents who have passed. So there's this entire generation of people who are in, like, they're getting their parents' condo or house or things along those lines, and they weren't actually on a path to become property owners or landlords. But you also don't want to liquidate an asset when the market is moving where it's at, right? The market is in such a good positive spot. Can you rent that property out? What's the one that when you've got somebody who's fairly new and they've listened and they're getting the guidance right from the beginning, what is kind of that one aha, or I didn't know you could do that, um, tip or strategy within the taxation code that is overlooked so many times, and yet it's actually right there available? Like,
Yeah. Well, somebody in this place, typically there's two things I'd say. First, Form either an LLC or a series LLC. You can form those anonymously, connecting them to a law firm. So that way all your information is protected by the attorney-client privilege. Your name doesn't appear on the ownership of anything on the public record. What this means, if anybody looks to sue you, looks like you don't own anything. And guess who doesn't get sued? People that don't own anything, because there's nothing that doesn't look like there's there anything to take. So this is a way to stop lawsuits before they start. If they do sue, then your LLC or series LLC structure then protects you. Number one, let's get protected. Very important. Right? Because lawsuits is a zero game, right? You can get sued, they take everything. Taxes is a fractional game. They're taking a percentage of like whatever it is that you make. So after you become protected to cover from that potential loss, then what you want to do is look at the taxes. Inside of the taxes is a number of things you can do. But the big one mover for everybody who's making above $150,000 a year or simply wants to be able to take advantage of this type of tax saving structure. At above 150, it makes no brainer sense, but it does work for everybody. What you do is you form a private foundation. A private foundation is a type of 501c3 entity that you only contribute your personal funds to. What it allows you to do is contribute up to 30% of your personal funds into the private foundation. You can invest all of that money through the foundation, whatever assets that you like. There's no tax on the gains that are made inside of that foundation. Yeah. So now you have this tax sheltered vehicle through which you can invest. And what's beautiful about that versus a solo 401k, for example, is that it's not locked up until retirement. If you find yourself in a place where you need to pull cash out of the foundation, you can pay yourself a director's wage. Now it's taxable at that point, but otherwise it grew. So out of, let's say we're at a 20% tax bracket, yeah, $150,000 is what you make. So now out of $150,000, we can take 50 of those $1,000 and then put that into the private foundation. So what did we just do? We now meant that we just saved $10,000 in that year from taxes because we didn't pay the 20% tax on the 50K that we protected, right?
Brilliant.
Now I can take that 50,000 and now I can invest it. Maybe I invest in stuff that doubles that money. Maybe whatever things happen at that point, buying and selling of the assets, generating rent revenue, whatever the case may be, all flows into that private foundation and none of it's taxable. So you essentially get this giant tax shelter that you can draw income from if you need it. But in the meantime, it just grows. And so, but look at what just happened. The money that you needed to invest, today it was $5,000 to set up the shelter. It's a one-time cost. It costs you $5,000 to set it up, maybe $1,000 or so every year to maintain it. But you made $10,000 and not paying tax to the government. So you just made a 200% return up front in tax savings on the money invested, plus being able to invest all of the money you saved into a shelter that is producing returns that also aren't taxed. So one of the best, or I'd say the best and the only guaranteed return investment you can make is tax, because you know exactly how much money you're going to make before you do anything.
Brilliant. And see, it's funny because I've always like tax has always been like a negative, whereas you just actually put a positive. Taxes are inevitable, just like death, right? But I've always looked at it through a very negative lens, whereas you're actually putting that lens of opportunity and how do you get it to work for you versus against you. That's
Yeah, of course
brilliant.
we don't want to pay taxes, right? So the next step after this is you first have all of the deductions you want to take with your business deductions. Then we say, cool, how do we protect it in the right kinds of vehicles, solar 401ks, private foundations, etc. And then the last thing that we do is we say, well, what kinds of investments do I have? And with the kinds of investments that we get into, there's opportunities to be able to generate things that are called accelerated and bonus depreciation. And if you can't afford to buy one of these assets on your own, you can buy them fractionally as part of a syndication, which we also offer And I don't create the syndications, but I make introductions to people that are inside of my deal network and bring them into like the live summit that we're going to have here in June, so people can meet people from my network and upskill, upgrade. Who are the people they're getting some of these deals from? These deals are like self-storage units, but inside of a self-storage unit, I just placed $100,000 of my own money into. Plays like a 9% pref with a 22% IRR, has a 5-year exit, but also provides 180% bonus depreciation. So it means in year one, I'm actually getting $180,000 in additional write-offs to my taxes. So with my $100,000 investment, that's going to pay me my like 9% and this, 22% IRR and 5-year exit. But what I really care about, the big win, is what is the value of having $180,000 in additional write-offs that I can use this year and for the succeeding years. Well, if I'm at a 20% tax bracket, what does that mean? That means an additional $36,000 in actual dollars that I'm saving in taxes. Well, I already saved $10,000 because I did my private foundation. And now because I invested my 100K correctly, I just made an additional $36,000 this year. I'm not having to pay my other taxes. And that's how you get your taxes down to zero efficiently and effectively, is it requires these 3 legs of the stool: the deductions, the tax shelters, and then proper investing. Because at the end of the day, all of our clients are focused on a blended ROI. It's not just the investment you make, it's also the tax advantages that you're going to get off of it. And then we optimize around that number to be able to say, okay, this is the appropriate portfolio that has the maximum performance.
Brilliant. Truly brilliant. I don't think I've ever had it quite put that way to me before. And I had 22 years of real estate. I know a lot of lawyers. But yeah, so that's brilliant. Is this information that you're sharing on your podcast also? Because,
It's also just in the vault.
it's just
Like
in the
we just
vault.
have everything recorded inside of structures and courses that are there. You just have to go into the vault for free, start studying, connect with our staff. If you're not sure where to look for what it is, they'll get you connected to the right section of the materials that are there. Join us on the live summit that's coming up here in June. You'll be able to meet all the professional team that'll be teaching on all of these things. So we have everything from
It's
direct live
it's all
support to courses to group community things for you to be able to learn how to do this. These are all base
brilliant.
hits. None of this is magic.
None of it's magic. And that is, I mean, again, it goes back to the story. It goes back to the system. It goes back to just follow the path that's been put out. You know, I've had this conversation with a lot of people on different things, but the reality is in general, we are not the exception to the rule. We just don't know the rules, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
it's you have to know the rules in order to maximize the opportunity. You can't, the rules are put there as like you have said, the pathways, right? Um, I usually ask about books, but I love having fellow podcasters on the podcast. Can you talk a bit about, Real Estate Nerds is your podcast. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk a bit about that? Like how long have you been doing it? And what does the audience, what can they expect from it? Because you seem to be a very kind of strategic individual where anybody who shows up in your sphere, they know what to expect from you, right? So can you share with us a little bit about Real Estate Nerds?
Yeah. All of the intensive sharing that we do is that's technical oriented. We do through summits. The purpose of Real Estate Nerds as a podcast was trying to answer the question about what is our best and worst deals and what did we do or not do that led us there. And so I interview guests through about maybe the first 100 and so episodes. It's just on that question. Because I was fascinated by the point of saying, is there a predictable path like we can see in business and wealth building about how asset protection, insurance, tax, and investing work? Is there also a predictable path that tells us about what happens before we even do something? Can we even know before we make a decision inside of what's happening with us? or we just left it chance. And what I found through that, doing those shows, was that it's actually very predictable. But what it takes is a skill that nobody has ever taught us. The skill that nobody has ever taught us is how to be reflective about what's really going on inside of us before we make a decision. Slow down, become aware. From what place am I making this decision is just as important as what decision am I making. This isn't a woo-woo spiritual concept. It turns into very practical implications. That's what I found out on the podcast. For example, what I found was people that were really excited about deals, it's very scary. They often made poor decisions because of their optimism didn't allow them to see reality. Because they couldn't see reality, they started masking over facts of things they should have seen as warning signs to not do something. So it's very important to be like, hey, how am I excited inside? From what place am I excited? Maybe I need to get calm first before I go and make a decision about this. The same thing was true with actually people that were overly pessimistic. They couldn't see the reality of where the opportunity was. So it seemed to be the case where we looked at best deals and worst deals, that best deals always correlated from a place of following a system, following a process, and doing this last piece, which was I'm checking in with myself. From what place am I making this decision? Am I calm, steady, and objective? Or am I having some type of emotional screen that's preventing me from really being able to see reality for what it is? And I'll delay the elite investors and business people I work with will always delay making a decision until they can make the decision or have the conversation from the right place. They won't do anything until that's true.
There's a saying, and it's emotions by logic justifies, right? And that's like a standard saying amongst, people who are in any form of sales, right? Emotions by logic justifies. That seems to apply also here, is that we tend to jump in with our emotions, be it negative or positive, right? Color it all. And you have to, what I'm hearing is, let the smoke clear on the logic step forward before you activate. Like really, no matter, if you're going, oh, well, my mother always did this, blah, 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 I'm not going to do it that way. Or, the last 4 deals I did in this neighborhood were awesome, right? Allow those emotions clear out and come in and see the actual numbers and the actual logic within the opportunity. Am I understanding that a little bit better?
You are. And I
Okay.
think we can say it very simply, which is a question that always comes in my mind, is am I really seeing reality?
Yeah.
Because all of these other things are actually keeping me from seeing reality. When you're in the place that you can actually see reality and you're with people that are actually seeing reality, it might very well look like the experience that you're having of me right now. These kinds of people, when you meet them, it's obvious. They look like they're very calm, that nothing that you're going to say is going to shift them or move them. They're always centered with what's happening. It's not cold. It's not being detached from emotion. It's present and just letting reality happen, watching it. This is why people at the top of the game meditate. They're not meditating because they want to see some pretty lights. What they're practicing is the ability to get still inside. So that way, whenever things come up and their emotions start to want to run away from them, they can simply breathe and inside of that breath come back to being present, strong. It's my belief this is the most powerful state of being we can access. From doing all of the interviews, from real estate nerds, from working with over 2,000 investors across the country, there's, of course, all of the tools we need to know how to execute to be able to do things the right way. But the true superpower that really makes the 10 or 100x difference is this piece. And it's the hardest one to get.
And that is something that I've heard repeatedly. And I folks, everybody who follows me on any platform, you'll know I have a challenge with sitting still. And I am always usually the loudest person in the room, banging the drum, getting excited. Um, and that has been one thing that over the last year or so is learning to listen, slow down, and be present. Listen to what's being said. And that's the big one because I almost my entire year or life, right? Up to 52 years of age, I was always racing. What's the next answer? What's the next answer? And I think we all do that. We're all trying to project the next answer to the question that
Mm-hmm.
hasn't even been completed.
Right. You see this inside of ourselves in conversations. How often we think of what we're going to say next whenever this other person will just please stop talking so I can say whatever's on my mind. Yeah. And do it, which is common, right? And it sounds like something that maybe you have practiced with and are aware of that runs inside of yourself. This other piece that comes into it as well, though, is this other question that says, well, maybe it's actually not just me in conversation. Perhaps everything in life, I'm rushing to get to the next thing. And the feeling of this can be like I'm on a never ending hamster wheel of one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And actually, I'm tired and I feel anxious and I actually don't know what to do. So I'm just doing. And what I'm offering is to say that business and investing is such a beautiful tool for all of us because it allows us a way to be able to keep score about how well are we able to flex these other tools. Because what we know is if we operate and make decisions from this other place, we make better investments. We make better decisions in our businesses. If we use the tried and true systems and process around the asset protection, estate planning, insurance, whatever that is, leadership skills, sales skills, marketing skills, we'll have better results with this energy that we've been able to preserve and channel into better tools for us. So imagine what it could be like if you just didn't need to do so much and you could just enjoy the being here, having a conversation, connecting with somebody. What if you could actually get more done by doing less because you just weren't doing so much that created all of these other downstream problems and muddled all of the waters? You could see clearly, here's exactly what needs to happen. I'm only going to do that one thing. And then I'm going to wait. And I'm going to keep waiting until I get still inside and say, oh, great. Here's the next little thing that I got to do. Now let me practice getting still again. Here's the next little thing I'm going to do. Now let me get still again. My experience has been is that 90% of what I used to do when I was operating from that other place just didn't need to happen at all. I was playing a game where I thought being hyperactive was the way to success because that's what all of these people on podcasts and everything told me. And it might be on days I'm really active. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen and do it, but it's from the state at which I'm acting is what I'm focused on. And that makes all the difference because I'm not having to clean up all of the messes and doing things half as well as I could because I'm actually tired of from all of the other things that I did that I don't really have the energy to put in to make sure that the few critical things are done perfectly at the highest possible level.
And that's where a lot of projects get half finished. When you learn the art of no, thank you. It's not within the vertical. I think that's the clarity you're talking about. Know exactly what you're working on and within and for, so that if an opportunity arises, you can seize it. But if somebody presents something that they believe is an opportunity but doesn't align, you can graciously decline it. You're not running around, like you said, making one mess after
Because you're
another.
excited. So you want
Yeah.
to do the new project, yeah?
Yep.
Or whatever, right? And remember, like if you're excited and anxious and your mind is like this, are you really seeing reality?
Yep.
Or are you really just putting whatever's going on in your head on top of reality and then making a mess of all of it?
I totally get what you're saying, because um only until the last few years, so in real estate, hyper focused, serve the community. I built a $7.5 million brand, no friends or family, no technology, just literally by doing the core 3 or 4 things that I did really well. Then it's really easy because people see you doing really well over here. They go, oh, by the way, you should do this, and you should do this, and you should do this. And that excitement can be contagious, right? And you get
Mm-hmm.
moved off the mark of what you do really well, and you start doing other things not so well. You can actually
Mm-hmm.
it hurt your business that way.
It's true. And it can also be true that the things that you do really well, the things that led to your success, Kim, may have been, if we traced it back, would be into the level of activity and the excitement that you have to help those people do that. I believe in my heart that that is exactly what you needed to build the thing you built.
Yeah.
What I'd like to offer to you is that to get to the place inside of yourself, to the next level of whatever it is in you inside of the process of creating in this world, will take something different. And it takes, in my experience, having to let go sometimes of the things that served me in the past and say, great, that really served me then. But actually, to get to this other place, I have to let that go and let something new inside of me grow organically, which means slowing down, giving to myself, letting it bubble up, saying, great, this is actually what it's really true for me. It's not to say any of those other things I did were bad. They just served me for the place I was in life, for what I was doing. But with this new place, this is where I want to get to inside of myself, because this is what I want to create. And in the meantime, money serves a function in our life as just a way of being able to provide for us, as so we can have the journey of growing and creating. And that's what all of this stuff is. That's all I've created in Royal Legal Solutions. As I say, this is a bastion of a place to learn how to be able to create the systems, processes, team, and oversight to make it where money is appropriately managed. So that way, all of us can accelerate our place to the self that we need to be, saying, great, money now serves me. Now I'm blessed with this other opportunity, which is how do I want to grow? What do I want to experience? What do I want to create? And that's a much more fun game.
I agree 110%. I really do. And it's when you do Myers Briggs, have you ever done any of the personality, like different tests?
Isn't that the one that gives you like an alphabet soup of like a C, P,
Yeah,
D,
like your
E,
AB.
something?
Yeah, you're either uh, introvert, extrovert. Like, have you ever done any of those personality? Because I know those are really popular in like
Yeah.
sales and real estate and such.
You know what's funny is I have done them. I've actually done them a lot over the past say 15 years. What I've found is that all of those tests actually shift as I'm shifting myself.
Yeah.
And that the person that I was 6 years ago, when they said, oh, you're a maverick, you're out there creating on the fringes, not concerned about this, and you're just that's true for who I was at the time. I was trying to break open a new industry and a new thing. Taking the test now, they would probably reflect something totally different about being much slow paced, valuing consistency, high detail orientedness, high systematic thinking. But I'd be curious to take them again. But yeah, I have taken them. I think they're very helpful to take these tests and then to reflect about where they might be true or not true for us, as just as a matter of reflection, even.
Yeah. No, I would love to see your test because it's because you are
What do
and
you
I
think it would
you
say?
well, you come across as a very deep thinker. But in order to accomplish all that you've accomplished, you also have to be somebody who is a pusher, somebody who gets in and initiates, right? You initiate,
Mhm.
but you actually, I think, just hit the word that is actually a core, consistent. That I
Mhm.
think is the core. That's what I'm taking away from this is this consistent mindset, this consistent effort, the consistent overview. And that's I think that there isn't a I don't, as far as I know, there's not a personality test out there that will give you that your personality is consistent. But I would say that
Mhm.
that's actually what I'm taking away from this and from all that you presented, which most likely, just so everybody knows, I'm not a client as yet of Royal Legal Solutions. However, with you saying consistent, I can see how that could be actually a core fundamental within all that you've built is to be consistently reliable, accountable, connected. All of these spaces that can create reassurance for your clients. Um, I always like to I've got all of your socials up here, and we'll have everything in the show notes. Your LinkedIn, which is my favorite space, Twitter, which I haven't ever figured out, Facebook, who Facebook is interesting. Facebook is it's a great place for groups and information transformation. And Instagram, we get to see all the cool places that you go and do and all the awesome stuff you do. Um, Everything's in there. I would love for you to share a quote that inspires you that you would like to lend to somebody when because here's the fact, folks. Life in general, nobody gets out alive. Nobody gets out alive, and it can be hard. And on the days that hard is hard, know that you're not alone and, we want to lend this quote to you. This is an inspiration that you can pull on, do what you need to do, get up in the morning, get moving around, take a look, take consistent, measurable action to protect yourself. But yeah, if you can share a quote that reflects a bit of who you are and what inspires you.
One of my favorite quotes is actually from Rumi. It was like an old school spiritualist. And what Rumi said was, I know you're tired, but come. This is the way. Said, I know you're
That
tired, but come. This is the
is the
way.
way.
It's all you have to do. All you have to do is just follow the path. Breathe. Relax. Life is okay. Just follow the path. And then if you're on the path, all that's left to do is just relax. I know you're tired, but just come. This is the way. Come get educated. You'll see it clearly once you get educated.
Wow. That's you know what? Very, very good insight. I want to thank you for sharing your time today. I can tell you're a lovely human being inside and out, and you're actually working from a point of integrity to serve others. And I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Thank you, Kim. It's been a pleasure to be here with you.
Excellent. All right, guys, stick tight and check out this super awesome closing and enjoy the music. Make a call. Check out all that Scott has worked so diligently to provide you for your legacy in real estate and all of your assets and get them covered. CYA, folks, cover your assets. And until next time, be good to yourself. Thank you for joining us at the 500 Doors Your Real Estate Podcast. Be sure to join our Facebook group at Real Estate Success with 500 Doors. Keep on watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, because we all know sharing is caring.